I have set my camera up a little bit closer than I normally would, mainly because I wanted to do something that I haven't seen done elsewhere, and one of the things that I wish that I had had before I went ahead and purchased the system, and that is a one-to-one comparison between TrackIR and the Tobii eye tracker. So for a little bit of my history, I've been using TrackIR for a few years and the Tobii eye tracking system for a few weeks. So I fully admit that any of the issues that I start going into about the Tobii eye tracker system could very easily be due just to operator error on my part. And as you've probably guessed, one other thing is you can sort of see the screen over here that I use an ultra-wide setup, which could also be throwing off the Tobii system. For this comparison, I'm just going to start with the TrackIR. TrackIR uses a two-part system. If you've never used it before, it uses the IR emitter, which is these antlers, and it uses a receiver that typically sits up on top of your monitor, and the two communicate with each other to tell which direction your head is moving. So it's tracking the movement of your head. The good things about the TrackIR is the range of motion, and because you're using the TrackIR software to set this up, you can actually customize it to a pretty big degree, and it's been around for a while, so they've really kind of refined that software. So for example, not only can I look side to side and up and down, which you'll be able to see that I can easily do with the Tobii eye tracker, but you can also directly control the curves. But another thing I can do is set it so that I can actually look behind me and lean over, which when you're dog fighting is pretty important. When you're hauling around cargo, not so much. But you can look down, you can do the typical things like lean side to side, tilt your head, which is an option in Star Citizen that you can turn on and off. You can lean forward and lean back, which once they start rolling out the truly 3D HUDs, that could start making a pretty big difference. So those are the good things about the TrackIR system. Some of the downsides I've seen is the fact that it uses an IR emitter that's actually here can be a problem if you have a window behind you. So behind me right now I have a green screen, and behind that is a window with a thermal curtain over it. And even with the thermal curtain, at certain points of the day, the sun, which puts out a huge amount of infrared light, would hit at just the right angle to throw off the receiver. And until I put up the green screen, it was just enough that the system would freak out. It wouldn't know which emitter was the one it was supposed to focus on, and I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later in the video. But it would make the system basically unusable until that time of the day passed, which wasn't always convenient for me. The second thing is more just probably the nature of COVID right now, and the fact that I'm working from home and I'm working on my gaming rig, that I will occasionally be in Zoom meetings and having to explain to everybody that what this is, even in passing, kind of lets it fly that I am working on a high-end gaming rig. And you can typically blow through that pretty easily, but it's still a discussion that you might not want to have, and for that reason I decided to give Tobii a try, since it's a one-part system. So those are just kind of the downsides and upsides of the TrackIR system. So now I'm going to switch over to Tobii and show you what that looks like. So now I've switched to the Tobii system, and Tobii uses a one-part system. So as opposed to the two-part system of TrackIR, where it has the emitter and the receiver, Tobii just uses an emitter that's mounted underneath your monitor, typically underneath your monitor, and it puts the infrared light into your eyes, and then it tracks the eyes with its two sensors on the unit itself. It's an intuitive system because wherever you're looking, that's where the system's going to pick it up. And you can sort of see that as I read my script right here, it's going to mostly be looking down at the bottom here. So it's got a pretty good range of motion, so you can sort of see it can't quite get as far as the TrackIR can, but it's not bad. in typical flying, especially in Star Citizen, where you're not engaging in a whole lot of dogfights, or at least I'm not, it works fine. You can sort of see that it takes it a few seconds to find the center again. Like I'm looking at the middle of my monitor right now, and it's just kind of trying to figure that out. So now when I shift my head, now it's back to center. And this is one of my issues that I've had with Tobii so far, is that it has a fair amount of lag. So one of the reasons I have the camera right up on my face today is because I wanted to show this. Now, I'm going to do this a couple times where I'm going to look quickly to the side. Now, if you remember with the TrackIR, if I look quickly to the side, the system would immediately, almost instantly, follow my head motion from side to side. But if I'm looking, it responds, takes a couple seconds to get back to center, and you can get it so it sticks in the middle. That is operator error on my part. That's some tuning that I could do there. But it isn't quite as responsive. You can see there's just a little bit of lag. Like when I look to the left, it's like a little bit, about a half second behind, which if I saw something to my left and I looked, it just kind of, it moves almost like a bell curve. Like it'll very slowly ramp up, like trying to figure out if you're sure that you really want to do that. And then it'll commit to the action. And I think one of the reasons it does that is because the way our eyes work is you actually have a very small, even if you have good vision like me, I have 20/10 vision, even if you have very good vision, the actual thing that you could focus on is probably about this big, and your eye and your brain work together to flick all over the place to actually complete a vision of what the world looks like. So your eyes are actually sitting there doing this the whole time. And I think what Tobii is doing is smoothing out that curve so that your view isn't just flicking all over the place, because the game would be unplayable. Some upsides, you don't have to wear antlers. It just reads your eyeballs, so as long as you have eyes, it can see it. I don't wear glasses, but I do have these, which block blue light, and I'll just show you that the system can actually see, if I can outsmart my glasses, can actually continue to see even if you're wearing glasses, even if it's got a fair amount of glare on it, it'll still pick it up. If you have a speaker set up, if you're not wearing a hat, the Tobii system is going to work anyway. So if you have like a surround sound speaker system that you like to game with, Tobii's probably the system that you prefer, because you don't have to wear headphones to compensate for that. And so that right there is one of the main reasons that I switched back to TrackIR. But if that lag isn't an issue for you, and the benefits, which I am guessing one of the other benefits to the system is that it is native to Star Citizen, which means that both Tobii, whenever they come out with updates, it's going to be supported by Star Citizen, but also CIG is going to be working to support the system as well. So they'll always go hand in hand, and anytime Tobii is improved, Star Citizen will be moving right along with it. And I'm assuming a lot of the issues that I'm having are going to be tweaked over time. So it could be that in a year's time, this video is completely outdated because Tobii can do all the same things TrackIR can do. So in conclusion, because of those reasons, I've decided to switch back to the TrackIR system over the Tobii system. But I could see how people would prefer the Tobii system if they didn't like wearing headphones, or if they're using surround sound, anything like that, and the native support. I could see Tobii catching up to TrackIR very quickly, and being natively supported in Star Citizen could make a huge difference. One of the things that I'd like to point out now that I've moved back to the TrackIR system is, I'll see if I can get it to do it here. Okay, doesn't look like it's going to do it now, but one of the things that can happen, and I don't know if you would ever run into this situation, just when I switched back to using TrackIR, I never shut off the Tobii system. And one of the ways that the Tobii system works is it's sending IR light into your eyes and using your eyes as the sensor. So as opposed to this, your eyes are the sensor. And the receiver for TrackIR can pick that up. So if you're utilizing TrackIR with the Tobii eye sensor on, it could pick up your eyes as an IR emitting source. And that caused my unit to freak out. I could not figure out why until I shut off the Tobii system, and then it made a lot more sense. So that's an example of what TrackIR can do and what Tobii can do in sort of a one-to-one scenario. And I hope that helps you make a choice, and I'll see you in the verse.